We are live with Rico's Corner. We're a little bit late, but better late than never. As always, my guest for this evening is Chris Lodgson. He is the founder of Sac Black Biz, Sacramento County's largest directory and digital marketing platform for local Black businesses, and also, the reason that we're here tonight, he is the lead organizer for the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. And as a lead organizer for that program, he is very passionate about the work being built around Black reparations, which is what we're talking about tonight. So, Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Shout out to you, Rico. As always, I appreciate you for having me on the platform. Shout out to everybody that's watching right now and gonna watch when this goes out. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much.
Of course, of course. So we're going to jump right into this first
Come on.
question, which is just giving us a little background about
Yeah.
the work that you do with the coalition
Yeah.
and the topic of Black reparations. And then why is that work important for today's society and climate?
Yeah. So great questions. By way of background, I started reparations work here in California probably in 2018, 2019, and really started as just a regular person who just wanted to know more about reparations and also help make reparations actually happen. And I was very fortunate to connect with a lot of great folks online and offline who were thinking along the same lines. And in 2019, I was very, very fortunate to connect with some folks at the Capitol,
Mm-hmm.
inside of the Capitol, and actually talk to some of the state politicians who were also thinking and talking about reparations too. One of those state politicians was the folks who work for then Assembly Member Dr. Shirley Weber out of San Diego, now California Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber. And her team was working on some reparations resolutions and some stuff like that, and some reparation stuff at the Capitol. And we started working with them from there. And then we're very fortunate later on next year, 2020, at that time, to help write the final version of the law that created the California Reparations Task Force, which was signed into law by the governor in 2020. We were actually at the signing ceremony with the governor in 2020. So that's some of the background. I definitely want to talk more about that work and what happened next. But to your other question about why is this important, I think I think it's important for a number of reasons. First, the Black people whose ancestors built this country are owed a debt. We are owed something. And so whenever you owe something, I think about it as, if somebody owes me money or somebody owes me something, I want to get what's owed to me. And so I think for us, it's the same thing. Also, I think for us as a people, in addition to just being owed what's due to us, I think we could tell that as a people, we want to do the best for ourselves. And a lot of times we don't have what we need to do the best for ourselves. And I think reparations is really an answer to that.
Okay, and then you kind of touched on it, but can you speak on what does it look like, when you say, what we're owed, but like how can that be calculated,
Yeah.
and then into hard dollars and not, just like this abstract thing. It's like, yeah, being owed money is like different than saying, okay, you owe me $1 million, right? So
Yeah.
like how in the work for Black reparations through the coalition, how has that been calculated?
Yeah.
And has that changed from like when the coalition first started its work?
Absolutely. Great question. So there's two ways I want to answer this. First, I want to answer it at the national level. How much are we owed nationally? And then I want to talk about what the state reparations task force has come up with for how much we're owed at the state level here in California. So nationally, one way that is one of the most common ways to put a price tag and a dollar amount on how much Black folks who descend from persons who were enslaved in the United States are owed is to look at something we call the racial wealth gap.
Okay.
And so one way to figure out how much we're owed is to say, well, if you think that the racial wealth gap is the result of slavery and what came after slavery, then what you owe is the amount of the racial wealth gap, what it takes to close that gap. And right now, that's about $14 trillion. So at a minimum, to be honest with you, so that's about the size of the racial wealth gap in dollars. It's about $14 trillion. If you spread that out over all of the black folks who are descendants of persons who were enslaved in the United States, one way to do that math, it comes out to around $800,000 per household or so.
That's
So
quite a sum.
it is, and that is to be honest with you, that's I've seen numbers higher than that.
Hmm.
That is what you could call a floor. So it would be no less than that. And that's just with direct compensation. There are other claims you could put on top of that nationally for folks who had land taken from them who need to get their land back, folks who have property taken from them who need to get their property back, etc. So that's the minimum that we've talked about and talked to folks who work on this, as sort of a national number. Statewide, though, here in California, the State Reparations Task Force actually hired a team of economists to actually come up with a number to answer that question. Last I checked, last I heard from what those economists put out publicly last month, the sum for California is around $800 billion
Okay.
so far. And so if you spread that out among all of the folks who would potentially be eligible, right, sort of that number divided by about, the number of folks who would be potentially eligible. So that's the sort of hard dollar amounts. And those are really floors, minimums, because there could be more.
Yeah, and then speaking about the folks that would actually be entitled to that money,
Yeah.
what is the process for actually being, deemed eligible to receive that
Yeah.
money, and and going through the steps of showing evidence
Yeah.
um, of being a direct descendant from a slave.
Yeah. So there's two. I'm going to answer that question in two parts. Because part of the answer is to be determined. So the State Reparations Task Force, which is a 9-member body, I think of it as sort of a 9-member team of folks whose job it is to answer a lot of these questions. And the governor signed a law in 2020 that I was sort of talking about earlier that created this 9-member team. And this team has been working over the last 2 years to answer some of these questions. How much is it going to cost? Who's eligible? How do you show that you are a direct descendant of someone who was enslaved in this country? So
Hmm.
part one to the answer is to be determined, because the state reparations team or task force actually is going to let the next group that's going to take over some of this work actually decide that question about how do you show that you're eligible. And the next group that's probably going to take over this work will be folks who work potentially in something called the California African American Freedmen Agency, which the State Reparations Task Force is recommending that our state government create. Inside of that agency will be something called the Office of Genealogy. And that office would most likely be the group of folks who tell us how we demonstrate or show that we're eligible for reparations. But the other way to the other answer to that question is about the process of how did the task force actually come to the decision about who would be eligible for reparations in California. And the task force really leaned heavily on the law that created the California Reparations Task Force.
Hmm.
In the law itself, it says this is a task force to create reparations. This is a law to create a task force to study and develop reparations proposals for African Americans with special consideration for African Americans who are descendants of persons enslaved in the United States. So it's in the law. So the task force had guidance there. The task force also asked the author of the law, Secretary of State Dr. Shirley Weber, to answer that question for them too. They asked her directly, who did you write this law for? Who were the people you wanted to be eligible for reparations? And she said the descendants of persons who were enslaved in the United States. And then the task force asked the community too, through its public hearings and its community listening sessions, who it thought should be eligible for reparations in California. And the community had different views, but the majority of folks who, for example, did the community listening sessions
Hmm.
and the majority of folks who come to the task force public hearing said, yeah, we think the direct descendants of persons who were enslaved should be eligible.
Okay, and then just for people that are watching or may watch later that are not familiar with the exact law,
Yeah.
you're talking about AB 3121. Is that correct?
Ah, yes. Hey, there
Yeah,
we go.
there
Yeah,
you go. I
you
gotta
know, you
plug
did the
you
research. Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah. AB 3121. Google that. Definitely look that up. It is a historic law. There's never been a state reparations law, a state reparations task force law. There's never been a state reparations task force. So literally, California has made history. And this is the first time, and I tell folks this all the time, we're closer to reparations than we've been since the end of the Civil War. And that's not cap. That's
in.
real talk. We are literally closer to reparations than we've been since the end of the Civil War. So in 150 plus years.
Nice, nice. And just so that way, I'm keeping track of time.
Yeah.
There will be a part two. So and that's going to be on June 15th. I'm going to talk about that after we get through all the questions and such. But just so that way, we're all going to kind of rush through it today. But there will be a part two, and definitely tune in, subscribe, so that way you get all of the notifications, and then you'll be able to see the other side of the gems that Chris is going to drop. So, all right, my next question is really about the resources that people can use to read
Yeah.
about AB 3121 and also about the coalition. So, what would
Yeah.
be some of like the starter resources and websites or books that you would recommend for people to look into in their own time,
Yeah.
in order to become more educated on this issue?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I would definitely recommend folks go to our website. It's on the crawl right now, cjec-official.org. We have a reparations education page. We have a reparations report and news page. The reparations education page is important because it breaks down the word reparation, what we mean by that word.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to have a good understanding of what that word means
Yeah.
and also what the California Reparations Task Force means when it says that word. So I would highly suggest folks check out that reparations education page on our website, cjec-official.org. Also, I would highly recommend folks check out the reparations reports and news page on our website too. If you go to that part of our website, a pop-up will pop up probably in the first three to 5 seconds, and it will direct you to the first report that the California Reparations Task Force issued last year, June of 2022, which sort of puts together all of what the task force learned in its first year of work. The task force has, by law, 2 years to study reparations, educate the public about reparations, and create a reparations plan. And so, and it's after his first year, they put a lot of that into their first report,
Mm-hmm.
and that's available on our website. And there's a link that will take you to where to find it. I will also recommend that folks go to the website of the California Reparations Task Force. And that is a great website too. It's on the crawl right now too. It's oag.ca.gov/AB3121. I think that's a great resource. And then also I would encourage folks to Google right there,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? It's crawling. And also, I'll recommend folks go Google AB 3121
Mhm.
California reparations and read the law for yourself. Oh, you asked me about books too. I'll give you two books because I think it's important. So, for one, I am recommending the first report of the task force. It's not a book, but it's 500 pages, so it's a damn near book. It's
Yeah.
actually long. It's longer than probably in the book. Um, but also a book called uh, it's called, oh my goodness, I'm going to blank on the name. It's From Here to Equality: Reparations for Black Americans in the 21st Century by William Darity Jr.,
Okay.
one of the top economists in the country, actually one of the economists that the California Reparations Task Force is working with to put that price tag that we were talking about earlier on
Mhm.
it. So from here to equality, reparations for Black Americans in the 21st century, a great book that's very, I think the newest version in paperback just probably came out, the last month or so. So it will last few months. So great book. And then lastly, I do recommend that folks actually get some knowledge about the early reparations movements in the country
Mhm.
by some of our ancestors who were formerly enslaved themselves. So our ancestors who were formerly enslaved before they were emancipated and right after they were emancipated fought for their own reparations. and there's a book called My Face is Black is True by
Mm,
Mary Frances Berry. It's about Callie House.
okay.
Callie House was born enslaved herself, and I call her the leader of the first reparations movement back in the 1880s and 1890s. She created an organization over 200, 300,000 members. This is back before, cars, back before Twitter, back before,
Yeah,
right? To create an organization of 200,000 members.
that's really
And
impressive.
I mean, that's fire. And it was called the Ex-Slave Pension and Mutual Benefit Association. So I would recommend that book, My Face is Black is True by Mary Frances Berry.
Okay, all of those resources I am going to put in the on my social media pages as resources as well. So if you're watching this either live or the replay, all great books, and everyone's going to be able to get that information post this session. So thank you for giving all those resources.
For sure.
And so we're going to close out with one word. You know how much I love this. And so we're going to talk about um,
Pressure.
one word to describe the Black experience. And this was actually something I had a lot of fun, like just like thinking about for a
Mm.
word or two. So I can go first if you want me to, but
You
um,
go first. You go first. You go first.
all right. So actually, my answer is going to. I'm going to start with a statement,
Okay.
and I have been looking at the definition of black.
Mm.
It's the black is the absence of light. But then
Mm.
when you look at the antonyms for the word black, it's brilliant or bright or all these different things. But like being black in any form, wherever you are in the world, it's all about being seen and being like the guiding light of culture.
Mm.
And so my word is going to be affirming because like no
Wow.
matter like how like the negative terms can come up about being black in America or whatever country you live in, it's always your our culture is the guide for a lot of other people. So for me it's affirming. It's like
I
no,
love it.
like I don't have to, you know, be a part of black culture because I am black.
Mm.
Just naturally, I'm just me. So
You are the culture.
I don't have to, yeah, exactly. I don't have to be anything else besides myself. And
I love that.
I get to decide what that means for myself. So
Wow.
that's
Woo.
what I'm gonna start with.
That was fire. Yeah, that was fire. That was dope. I completely agree. Wow. The word that came to mind for me was miracle
Mm,
or miraculous. So miracle, miraculous, and I say that briefly because and I'm speaking specifically about Black Americans, or African Americans who are descendants of persons enslaved in the United States. I want to speak specifically about us as a people because
okay.
we wasn't supposed to make it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We wasn't supposed to survive what was done to us. We wasn't supposed to be here, and it's a miracle that we are here and we achieve what we achieve. So that's the word that came to mind for me. Miracle, miraculous.
It's not even funny that you said that. It's just wavelengths. But the other reason why I chose that word, affirming, is because, we have achieved not in spite of, but because of.
Right.
But because of all the things we've had to deal with, we've learned how to adapt, how to just be better.
Oh
You
yeah.
and it's not because like, oh, like 400 years of slavery and all the things that happened after. It's like, we right now in 2023 we aren't thriving in spite of controversy. We are thriving because of it.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, it's
It's
really
actually made us. It's made us who we are, and it
yeah,
is. And this is something. You raised a very profound point. And I want to check in on our time too, but you raised a very profound point. It's exactly the argument that we make in the reparation space is that, specific, and again, I'm speaking specifically about us Black folks who descend from persons who were enslaved in the United States. We are part of a larger Black family for sure. But one thing that I think we're doing now is recognizing that we are a specific and special group of people.
Yeah.
We are a very special group of people, and nobody can be us because of what we've done, because we have achieved, and not in spite but because of. So I love the way you put that.
Thank you. We're just about under 2 minutes. So I'm going to use, thank you for that one word session. That was amazing.
For sure.
So we are going to close with giving you the floor to let everyone know where they can follow you on on social. You know, you already gave, you know, the websites, and it's
Yeah.
also scrolling. Where can they follow you on your social media pages to learn more, or just to, you know, see, you know, what you've been up to?
Oh yeah, at CJEC official on Instagram, at CJEC official on Twitter, at CJEC official on Facebook, at CJEC official on TikTok, CJC official at gmail.com. Get on our website, also cjec-official.org, and sign up for our monthly California reparations newsletter. Also, check out our reparations events page on our website. I'm actually leaving town tomorrow morning. I'm going down to Riverside. We got a California reparations town hall Friday night. Tomorrow night, we got a California reparations listening session. Saturday,
Always on the
next
go.
yeah, next Saturday
Yeah.
we in San Diego. We got a California Reparations Town Hall. The following Saturday we in the Bay Area for the California Reparations Task Force public hearings. Back here in Sacramento, Saturday May 20th and Saturday May 27th for two California Reparations Q&As. June 3rd in Stockton. I mean, so connect with us and get to one of these events too, so you can actually experience it live.
Yeah, it's almost like the question isn't like where can they find you, is where they can they find you.
Uh,
It's
I'm,
great.
I'm still in that. I'm still in that. I'm still in that.
It's all yours. It's all yours. And then I am Rico. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Rico Layer Events for both platforms. And I do, sorry, there is that clock. I do monthly game nights. And my next one coming up is going to be May 13th. It is going to be it's going to be inspired by Star Wars Day. So if you are a big Star Wars fan, definitely head to Rico Layer .eventbrite.com. Grab your tickets, play with everyone in the house, make it competitive. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then yeah, and then outside of that, I'll be doing my regular game night June 10th. And we're going to be doing U.S. presidential history. So if there's any history buffs out there that wants to, get that number one spot for that trivia that night, go ahead and again go to ricolayer.eventbrite.com and grab your tickets. And then outside of that, I will see you again next month. And then but then Chris is going to be back on June 16th. I got that right. At 6:30 again. We're going to be doing our Black Reparations Part 2. You don't want to miss that. So I'm going to say peace out, everybody. Have a good night.
Peace.